A task management system only works if you actually use it regularly. In part 2 of my Notion to-do list series, I'll show you how to create simple database buttons that allow you to answer only one question about your work each day. Do I do this today or not today? With these buttons, you'll be able to process your entire task list in under 3 minutes, giving you incredible mental clarity for the day ahead. And the most powerful part, a smart snoozing system that helps keep tasks out of sight until exactly when you need them. Let's get started. Alrighty, we're back for part 2. Remember that if you'd like to download this template, you can do so by heading over to queerefficiency.com/to-do. I have the base version, and everything we cover in this video will be the base version. And then the pro version, we're going to cover some of the more advanced automations in the third part of the series. Incredibly powerful, and it's actually my favorite feature, so I definitely recommend sticking around for the third part as well. But if you want to skip all the building and you just want to download it, you can go to queerefficiency.com/to-do. Also, if you haven't checked out part 1 of the series, I would recommend that you jump back to do that because it shows you how to build the document up to where it is on the screen right now. And also, if you prefer to just get a tour of the completed system and then go download it, that's in the first part as well, so you can head back there. In today's video, as I mentioned, we're going to build the buttons that allow you to quickly answer the most critical question of the entire system when you sit down to look at your list. After you've organized your list, now you are sorting your list. It's my 2-part method. When you sort, the most important question you answer is, am I doing this today or not today? And then there's a couple sub questions that follow. If it's today, you can decide if it's today for real or if it's today maybe. And then if it's not today, you can answer, do I have a specific time when this needs to come back? Or do I just need it to come back at some point? And we're going to support all of that using fancy automations and buttons that are actually pretty easy to build. So we're at our list. We've gone through all of the step 1, which is the organize. We've added area and we've added tags. Going to move this back up to not started so that everything is together. And then we want to add a few buttons. The first one is very easy. We want to quickly be able to tell our system, this item is for today. So let's build the today button. So we're going to add a new property. We're going to choose button. We'll name it today. We'll give this the day icon, which looks like that. We're going to bring this column width way in, move it over, and then we want to edit the automation. This is a very simple automation. All we have to do is tell it to edit the status and set it to today. And done. That's it. Button number 1 is done. So now if we hit today, it will update the status and our item will pop into the group that we set up. So it moves out of our processing list. This is where we're actually going through all of our items. All right, let's bring it back. The next thing we're going to add is done. And we're going to duplicate this button because it's essentially the same button. We'll say done. We'll give this a check mark. I like this one. I don't know why. We're going to edit the automation and change the status from today to done. And surprise, that works as well. Great. We are 2/3 of the way through our buttons. Now the slightly more complicated button that we want to add. So the goal here, we want to have a not today button. So let's just build the button first. Let's just get it in place. And I'm going to name it not today. And we're going to give it this hourglass icon. That'll be what represents overall our snoozing properties. So we'll drop that in here. And now we have our 3 buttons, today, not today, and done. Let me just quickly stop and say, we could add a 4th button for maybe, but what I found over working through this a lot, that button really isn't that necessary. I can decide as I process the items, today or not today, real quick. And then I can see my today items and just quickly toggle them to maybe once I have my list whittled down. So that first pass that you do will be very quick, and it's today or not today. Then you can go through once your items are empty and switch them to maybe if you're not sure you're going to work on that today. I should also add, you could get more granular than this. You could support something like Big 3 or some of these other methods that allow you to identify your top priorities or whatever simply by adding more statuses. You could have more than just today. I found that that doesn't really feel necessary. I just leave the items that I know I for sure want to get to today, usually is a maximum of 3, in the today, and then everything else is maybe. All right, actually, before we proceed, I want to do a couple housekeeping things that I neglected to do before. The first thing I want to do, I'd like to add a cover and an icon just as a matter of habit. So I'm going to change the cover. We're going to use Unsplash. I typically, for something like this, I prefer like a coffee in a notebook or something like that. Cool, I'm good with that just as it is. And then we're going to add an icon, that one, and that's fine. Also, I don't really need these icons here. They are not super necessary. I don't find that I use the icons a lot in a task system. It's pretty quick. So what you could do, you could just hide them by coming to the item property and toggling off show page icon. I find that to be just a little bit cleaner. Okay, housekeeping items done. Now, hey there, it's me from the future. And as I was editing this part of the video, I realized it was a mess. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk through this formula again because I wanted to make sure that it was right and simple and easy to understand for you all. So if the document itself looks slightly different, that's why, because I'm using the completely finished version, the one that you'll see now at queerefficiency.com/to-do. Okay, so let's talk about implementing the not today function. The purpose of this button is that when you click it, it will snooze your task for a random number of days that you can set in the formula that I'm going to show you. I do it for between 1 and 7 days. The idea is I just want the item off my list. I want it to go away. I don't want to think about when it needs to come back and just be secure in the knowledge that it will come back at some point. And also I can go and grab it from the other views. So let's build this formula. The first thing I can say is Notion does not, still to this day, does not have a random number function. I really wish that it did, but unfortunately it doesn't. So we have to do a bit of a funky programmatic workaround. So I looked up this article. This is by Matthias Frank. He's a great Notion creator. I love his stuff. Check him out. He's on YouTube. He does all sorts of Notion things. I use a flavor of what he discusses in this article. If you want to get this article, you can. It'll be in the description. But from my live system, I'm just going to paste the formula in and we'll talk about it when I get it in here. So we have this button, not today. I'm going to edit the automation, and then we want to edit a property. We want to edit the snooze until. Remember, the goal is to insert a date in the future between 1 and 7 days. As a reminder, you can customize the number of days in the future. So if you want it to be between 1 and 3 or 1 and 21, whatever that looks like, you can do. So let's do a custom formula, and we're going to paste this formula in. So this bit here is a giant mess, right? That's the random function. This is the workaround. First of all, this lets function is what allows you to create variables. I want to set a variable and make random no, that's this variable here, equal to some random number between 1 and 7. So ultimately, when the formula runs, it'll do all of this crap. And basically, without getting into the details, if you want the details, you can go check out that article. But basically what this does is it uses the current timestamp and adds a bunch of numbers to it to make it more random. So ultimately, when the formula runs, this bit, it will create a variable. I want to turn on my little cursor highlight. It will create a variable, random no, and then this whole bit will insert a number between 1 and 7. You can change that by adjusting this number here and make it 3, make it 21, make it whatever you want, and it will insert between 1 and that number. Now, the last bit of this down here, all the date add function does is it takes whatever time you tell it and then however many days and adds those together. So just so you understand how date add works, let's quickly back all this out of here and I'm just going to show you date add. So what it does, it says here, adds time to the date. It takes a date, it takes a number, and it takes a unit. So you can say, I want to use the current date and time. I want to add months, days, years. You can do that with the unit and then a number. So 1 month, 2 days, 3 years, whatever. So we're going to replace the date bit with now in the formula. So we'll say now. And then the middle part is how many of whatever unit should we add. So let's say that we're going to add 3 and then in quotes, days. That would take the current date, add 3 days to it. I could substitute this with 45 days. I could do 4 weeks. So that's how that works. So let's paste our whole formula back in. And remember, this variable random no runs and the formula will insert a number between 1 and 7 into random no, which as you'll see is inserted down here in that number slot of our date add. So it says now a random number from 1 to 7 days. And then the rest of this formats it with a particular date format, so it comes out looking more like this and doesn't include the time. Typically when you use the now function, it will insert the date and the time. We don't want the time because let's say you're going through your task system at 6 p.m. and you hit snooze and it does it for tomorrow, and then you sit at your desk tomorrow in the morning and it's 9 a.m. When you unsnooze the items, if it's 9 a.m. and the item is set to 6 p.m., it won't show. And so your dates will be off. So we want to get rid of the time out of there. And you do that with all the rest of this junk. So just a quick recap, generate a random number, add that random number to the current date in days, and then format it without the time. That's how that works. So I'm going to hit save on this and save. And then when I hit not today, you can see that I'm getting random dates. And if I add new items, those will generate a random date. Now, it's just a coincidence that it inserted in reverse order. That's just a coincidence. So as I add new items and hit not today on them, you'll see that it's inserting random dates and times. Okay, that's the rest of my insert. We're going to go back to the regular video and pick up from here. What we want to do from here is once something is snoozed, we want it to not show up on our view, right? We don't need to see it here because it's supposed to be snoozed. We'll see it later. So we're going to do two things. We want to filter the main view to hide the snoozed items, and then we want a view that shows only the snoozed items. So let's filter the main view to handle that first. So we're going to toggle the filter on. And as I mentioned in the previous video, this is why I like the advanced filters, because I want to add something else and it's easier to see in this particular view. So what we want to say is add a filter. So where the status is not all this nonsense and where snooze until is empty. So we want to see only the items here where that's empty. So when I set a value, if I hit not today on this, it disappears, which is exactly what we want. So now we're going to create the snoozed view. We'll duplicate the main view. We're going to rename it to snoozed. We're going to give it our snooze icon. We'll drag this over. And then we want to modify that same formula to say where it is not empty. So it's just the opposite of that main view. Let's bring this back and we're going to build something here. You'll see in a second that'll make this particular task easier. So if we go to process our list, okay, meal prep is today, purchase office supplies not today, buy milk today. Cool. Now I don't see the snoozed item, but I do see them back over here, which is exactly what we want. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, how do these items end up back in our main view automatically or something? How do they get back? Do I have to check the snooze view and just bring things back myself? You could do that. I don't think that you want to do that. That's what this nifty little start button is that we put over here in the first video is for. Now, this is something that in the Pro version, when you have access to database automations, this is something you can automate so that it happens on its own. And so every day you sit at your system and everything comes back up on its own. But this way works pretty well. You just have to click the Start Today button. When you sit down at your system, you hit Start Today, and then it does all the stuff for you. So we're going to have this do a couple things. The first thing we want to do is edit pages in. We want to select the data source. And this is exactly where this database thing comes in handy, because sometimes it's hard to tell which thing is the right one. We're not selecting the page. Now, it did get this page, thankfully, but we actually want the database. We want to edit pages in the database, and we want to filter those pages. So let's actually flip. I don't know if this will let me keep this here. I want to flip back. Yeah. I want to flip back to snoozed. And any item, so let's set these back. Let's say today, let's add a couple just junk tasks, just so we have something to work with here. And we're going to give these, I'll give that one before, I'll give these in the future, just so that they have something. Actually, let's add one other thing here. Let's sort that ascending. So the oldest items appear first. So what we need to have happen is any items that are on or before today, we need these to clear the date, right? We don't need to have this date anymore. And when we remove the date from this field, they'll pop back into the main view. So let me just say one more. We'll just call that one test. And if I delete this, that will remove it from this view. Why? Because it's filtered to show only when snooze until is not empty. When I take it out, then it's empty. And so it doesn't show. And the reverse is true here, and now I have test up here. So that's all we need to do is any items where snooze until is on or before today, clear the snooze until field. Okay, let's make it do that. So we're going to say where any snooze until the start date is on or before today. We want to edit the property, snooze until now. I don't know if Notion has made this better yet. They may have. You used to have to do this funky thing with a parse date, and it's annoying. They may have fixed it, so I'm going to give it a shot. Let's just leave this blank because the goal is to remove the date. So let's say done. And now if it works, these two items should disappear and they should end up back in our main view. Hey, they did fix it, and hey, it worked. Look at that. And those items came back, and it did exactly what we needed it to do. Now, there's one other thing that I like to do in this button. When I'm working on things, I'm pretty diligent about clicking done when I've actually completed them. And it's not a big deal to mark them as done if they end up back in my task list. But in a lot of cases, there are a number of items that are left in my today view that I didn't complete and need them to pop back into my main list for sorting again. So typically what I do in this, now you don't have to do this. You could also create an entirely new button that does this separately. But I find for me, it works best when I combine them into the same action. So I just click one button. What we can do is we can edit pages in that same database. Now we don't want to use that same filter about the on or before today. We want to say any that have a status of today, or maybe, could be either one. Any that are like that, we want to set the status back to not started and done. So now when I click that, let's just snooze this and say it snoozed yesterday, so it will pop back in. When I hit start today, what should happen, this item, mop floors, should come back, as should these, should all clear back up and go back into not started. Let's give that a shot and see what happens. There they go. All the items are back and ready for processing on a new day. I don't like to have things lingering in my today view. I'd like to decide at the beginning of the day, am I going to pick that item back up? And as I mentioned, if I happen to have completed, say, mopping the floors the day before and I didn't manage to click done then, I don't mind clicking done the next day. I find it to be easier. There's less agita going on in my brain when stuff cleans itself up for me. All right, let's bring everything out of snooze because I want to create one more thing for you. We're going to set a couple items to work, and we'll set this to personal. I find that frequently I work standard Monday to Friday, and I work on my system Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a lot of things on Friday I typically don't need because my Fridays are pretty fixed, and then Saturday, Sunday, I don't need work tasks at all. So rather than having to go through, like in my main list, there's a whole bunch of those items. Let's come back and see my area list. I have a whole bunch, and it's just a pain to have to snooze them all manually when I know I don't even need to think about them until Monday. So let's build a new button that sends work to Monday. I can give this a different time icon just so it's a little different, okay? And then what I want to do is edit this and say, edit pages in, again, same data source. It's going to be the task manager database. And we want to edit all items where the area is work, and we want to set the snooze until, and then in this case, we're going to do a custom formula again, and we're going to ask Notion to try this. Now, usually it's pretty good. This one it should be able to handle, I'm pretty sure. Set this date property to the upcoming Monday. It's pondering. We'll see what it does. It should be able to handle this one. So it gets the current date, it does a little bit of math on it, and it returns, ideally, Monday. So what should happen if we did it correctly, we're going to hit save. What should happen is only the items tagged as work should be snoozed. And today, let's just look really quickly. So Monday should be the 6th. All of these items should be set when I hit this button to October 6th. Let's see what happens. Okay, they disappeared. October 6th. How about that? The button totally worked. Notion did its thing. Its AI is usually very good at generating that. So that's a little handy thing. Now, I don't want to see times. Let's see if Notion's AI can get it correctly again. This works, but I only want to see the date. It should not have a time. Now, I think it's going to do the same thing. I have a gut feeling that it didn't actually modify it, but let's see what it does. Let's clear this and then just hit it again, and those items should... Oh, it did. Look at that. It did it correctly. Look at me doubting Notion. It did so good. I should have trusted it. Alrighty, we're all wrapped up with this video. In the next one, we're going to work on building the snooze feature where it's got all those options for you to choose from. I find that that works really, really well for me. It's handy to be able to just say tomorrow or 3 days from now or Saturday. Those are quicker than having to pick from a date. I find that it just works better with my brain. It's less friction. If that doesn't appeal to you, or if you don't care about having the database automation fire this start today automatically, you could stop right here, download this. This is the free version. You can get it at queerefficiency.com/todo, TODO, and you can grab it for free and be right on your way to using a system immediately. But if you want those other things, stick around, because in part 3, I'm going to show you how to create those automations with that drop-down list so you can have the flexibility to select the items really, really quickly. It honestly is my favorite part of the entire system, that and the Not Today button. Those two things are the thing that got me to stick with it. My cat just joined me and I might want to show you her really fast. You want to say hi, Ruby? That's Ruby. She's mad because now I'm holding her and I'm sure she doesn't like it. Well, she doesn't mind me holding her, but that's Ruby. She's my little fuzz butt. Say hi. Say hi. No? Okay. That's Ruby. She's my kitty. I like her lots. Anyway, if you want to learn how to build that system, I've got that for you in the final part of my Notion to Do series in part 3, and you can get to that video by clicking it on your screen now. I'll see you there.